So what constitutes a safe class pick? In my opinion, they have to be a strong performing class, able to get into pugs and pre-arranged soft reserve runs, able to easily find guilds early and late into the expansion if for whatever reason you need to change guild, and the thing that makes a class just that little bit extra safe is the versatility to swap roles and specs. So without a shadow of a doubt, the first class on this list is the Shaman. The Shaman are always going to be the most in-demand class in a Burning Crusade because of how powerful Bloodlust and Heroism are in TBC, and it is only party-wide. Because of this, guilds and pug groups are always wanting to get at least 4 Shamans into the group so that every DPS group gets a Bloodlust to push through boss phases faster. Some groups even bring more than that because you can cycle in Shamans in and out of groups to keep giving them Bloodlust, and it's one of the many strategies speedrunners and passers use. Their DPS specs are only really strong during the early gearing up phase of tier 4. Most of the time they are middle of the pack DPS, but those DPS specs are also in huge demand simply because of the buffs they provide to all the ranged and the melee DPS. Every Warlock group needs an elemental Shaman to give them that higher spell hit chance so they can equip more spell crit gear. The enhancement Shaman in a melee group provides an extra attack power buff and a more powerful version of Wind Fury Totem. That is a ridiculous DPS gain for every melee DPS. An extra melee attack for a warrior is a chunk of rage and a higher chance for all of his procs to proc, and the same goes for a rogue. And Arresto Shaman is one of the best tank healers in the game with their armor buff, and even one of the best and efficient AoE healers in the game because of chain heal. Shamans get groups more than any other class. It is known. By the way guys, if you are playing any version of Classic WoW or Retail right now, by far the fastest step-by-step leveling guide, literally designed by the world record holding speed levelers in the game, is Rested XP. It also has so many useful features like a safer version for hardcore, profession power leveling and gold making, along with a lot of class specific tips. You'll also find an optimal quest preparation route for the launch of TBC Classic and Mr. Pandari on there that you can start working on right now, so check out the description of the video for more information on that add-on. Second on this list we have the Paladin. The Paladin goes a nudge higher than the others on the list purely because of the protection Paladin. I played a prop Pally on TBC, mostly on private servers, and you have no idea how easy it was for me to find groups. They are easily the most in-demand class for dungeon clearing because of their AoE threat, which actually allows other classes to play their class properly and do AoE DPS to their heart's content. And don't forget, you have to do a lot of dungeon clearing in TBC Classic for rep and gear farming. Ideally, raid groups will want 4 Paladins in the raid to benefit from Salve, Wisdom, Might and Kings, so that they are always in very high demand for guild and pug raids no matter what spec you are playing. Hola Paladin is probably the least versatile healer in the game. Their main role is usually to just spam cheap heals on the tank because they are so good and efficient at doing it. The ret spec is a middle of the pack DPS and probably one of the most fun and technical DPS specs to play in the game actually, but the extra party buffs that another Paladin can't provide is fairly minor, so you're never really going to see 2 Ret Paladins in a raid group, but nonetheless they are in demand. Protection Paladin is considered by many to be a mandatory tank to bring to a raid in TBC, so that's 3 specs in very high demand. By the way guys, please do me an absolute solid and subscribe to the channel, it really does help out, and I do have very soon on there a quest preparation route ready for the TBC launch to give you a huge boost and a huge XP advantage, which actually nearly gets you to level 63 before you even jump through the dark portal, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss when that guide is available. Now the next class has to be the Priest, and there's so many reasons for this. First, the Holy Priest is probably the best AoE healer in the game, with circular healing being so powerful and having no cooldown. It's literally a wipe saving ability when paired with a trinket pop. The Discipline Priest is a very high demand healer for more hardcore guilds who are past chasing, and that's because of Power Infusion. It's a buff you can apply to any spellcaster. It's near enough always going to go into a Warlock to be honest, or an Arcane Mage, and it speeds up their cast time and reduces the mana cost of their abilities by 20% for 15 seconds. This is the only way that Warlocks can chase for highest passes. If you have a Warlock guild leader, be prepared for him to recruit 3 Discipline Priests to steal all of their power infusions. They also provide a decent spirit buff to the raid, and they have Pain Suppression, which is basically a tank cooldown the priest can apply to the tanks, and it's great for progression fights. And then we have the Shadow Priest, arguably the best support class in the game next to the Shaman and probably the least played, which means you are in very high demand. Many groups entertain bringing 2 Shadow Priests, to be honest, especially for progression, just because of how powerful Vampiric Touch is at regenerating mana for the healers and DPS. A Shadow Priest in the Warlock and Healer group is very powerful for longer progression fights because it gives the group so much more stamina. They regenerate so much mana, every DPS and healer basically has 2 mana pools for the whole raid fight with a priest in the group. There will always be 1 Shadow Priest in the raid group because of their debuff Shadow Weaving that dramatically buffs the Warlock's damage, and it's always why many guilds recruit 2 Shadow Priests, because if you only have 1 Shadow Priest in your guild and they have to miss a raid night, your DPS is significantly reduced. Next, we have the Druid. Now, like the Shaman, their DPS specs are middle of the pack, but their buffs provide such a big boost to the other DPS. The boon can provide some form of benefit to every single role in the game. Melee DPS get an extra chance to hit with improved Fairy Fire. Spellcasters get a 5% increase to crit with Boomkin form. The tanks get Insect Swarm that reduces the damage that the boss deals, and healers get Innovates. The Feral Druid increases melee chance by 5% on the party, increases bleed damage on the target, which is also beneficial to warriors and rogues. Many people argue that the Resto Druid is actually the best healer for pure healing in tier 4, but unfortunately they are in less demand as TBC goes on, as the raids get easier and people are just chasing passes, so the other healing specs that provide more DPS buffs are in higher demand. They are still a decent healer, and they have the party-wide buff Tree of Life, which is pretty decent because it's 25% increased healing in the entire group. It's great in the tank group or the healer group to help keep those healers alive. And as a tank, they are the designated meat bag because their speciality really is surviving high damage boss abilities. All the specs are in high demand for any kind of group. The added utility of combat resing is also obviously very, very useful and can save you from wiping many times. And the last class has to be the Warlock. Although Warlock is an overplayed class, they are always in high demand throughout TBC because no matter what, it's always optimal to bring 3 Warlocks to a raid, no matter what tier you're playing. Some groups will even bring 4 because of just how strong they are and they might not have a better option. They really are the most reliable and consistent top tier DPS in TBC Classic just throughout. Source Stones are also so incredibly useful for saving raids from wipes and your passes. The extra buffs that the Affliction Warlock brings can also be useful for aggression fights. The extra stamina from the imp buff and the 5% reduced damage that the boss deals provided by the debuff Shadow Embrace can sometimes just be the edge you need to ensure your tank survives very specific high damage boss abilities. It's why you saw so many Affliction Warlocks come out of a closet for Sunwell, because people really need that extra bit of optimization and min-maxing because tanks were absolutely getting slapped in that raid. And there we have the 5 safest class picks for TBC Classic. No matter what, if you pick these classes, you're going to get into guilds and you're going to get into groups. No more whispering 5 dungeon rep farm groups and not getting a single reply. That's the life of a rogue, unfortunately. Although TBC Classic is much more balanced than vanilla, some classes do have a hard time finding groups, and we will discuss that in my next video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. My name is Meta Goblin. Until my next video, ciao.